Hello and welcome. My name is David Ridgway and this is Kirklees Local Television's Weekly Wind-Up, where we bring you a digest of the weekly news. We aim to be informative, interesting, amusing and indeed provocative. We will be discussing just one topic this week: Huddersfield Town Football Club and the new season for 2014-15. I'm delighted that the Commercial Director for Town, Sean Jarvis, is here today. Welcome, Sean. My second guest is Kyle Warwick. Kyle is a local resident from Marsden and a very avid Town fan. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you, David.
But we always want feedback from you. The Weekly Wind-Up can always be found on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com and on Twitter @Weekly Wind-Up. Now then, Sean, is the team ready for the season?
It's a big question. I think we have had a very interesting summer. There's been a lot of work done down at the training facility. There's been some movement in the transfer market, and there is still more to come in terms of the transfer market. So we're in a good position. We're happy. I think over the past 2 years we've worked extremely hard with the academy and bringing kids through, and we're now starting, I think, to see the fruits of our labour.
Good.
We played Newcastle United last night, so and the second half, a lot of the young blood, the academy players were blooded in that game, and I have to say they gave Newcastle a real run for the money. So in terms of the footballing side, yeah, I think we're shaping up nicely. It's forever a moving beast. It's forever changing. So it's one that we continually look at every day. There's not an hour goes by where we look to try and improve and develop the team. So I think we're in a good position. It's kind of bring it on now. Let's see what happens on Saturday.
Now, over the years that I've lived in Huddersfield, it's been a delight to see that the support that Town generates more than outweighs its position in the Football League. It's almost like a massive family spirit. The club has a glittering history, somewhat distant now, but there is a public thirst for more glory. Is this going to be the year when the results satisfy that ambition?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think in terms of the support that we get, the club is of its heritage. It's a tremendous club. I think right the way back through the 20s, we were a phenomenal team, and there are only, I like to get this fact out, there are only actually 4 teams that have won the title 3 times in a row, the Premier League, or the top league as it was back then, and they are of course Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, and of course Huddersfield Town.
Oh, indeed.
And there's only there can only be one of them who were first, and that of course was us. So the others kind of followed suit. So yeah, there's tremendous heritage. There is a support. I think our challenge is to get more of the fan base to back the club, to come down and hopefully see how we perform in the Championship. This is our 3rd year in the Championship now. The word that you use there is a family. And I think that's very important to us. Right the way from Dean Hoyle, our chairman, right the way down to every fan, we see it as a family. And that is important to us. Good. Has this been the year? I hope so. You know, we enter a competition we want to. We keep fingers crossed. We do everything we can. And I said this at the Newcastle United game. Everybody, and I mean absolutely everybody in that club, works their socks off to try and be successful with Huddersfield Town. They put blood, sweat and tears into it. So if you were to judge the league on that, I'm pretty certain we'd be top of the league tomorrow. But you know, it's all about the results on a Saturday afternoon. So fingers crossed, we go out there. It's going to be tough. It's going to be competitive. This division, we're up against teams who have the parachute payment from the Premier League. So hard work is ahead, but do you know what? We're ready for it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, Kyle, which new players will you be looking for this season?
Radoslav Majewski looks like a decent loan signing. He certainly seems to have fit into the ethos of what Mark Robins goes about. I'm extremely interested to see the way that James Vaughan and Naki Wells link up together. I think they have that right blend of big, bustling striker and somebody with a pace that can play around him. And Naki really did step up at the end of last season when people were maybe thinking that he was going to have a settling in period. He maybe had 4 or 5 games and then he really stepped up to the plate. So I'm hopefully looking to see that continue.
Which teams do you see as a threat to Town this year?
There's probably, I'd say, 10 or 11 teams that are, maybe even 12, that are all going to be vying for 3rd place to 6th place. Well, 3rd to 6th, it's always like that in the Championship. It tends to get very, very tight towards the middle of the season, and you can lose a couple of games and go from being 6th to being 17th. And
indeed.
So I think it's going to be very difficult to get past the likes of Fulham, who have come down with a strong squad, not particularly lost many players, improved their front line. They're going to be very difficult to get past. I'm going to be extremely interested, as Town fans always are, to see the way things pan out for Leeds and whether the kind of hopes that they have for Mr. Cellino are going to actually work out for them. But there's Wolves coming up as well. They've not lost anybody and will be adding. So it's always extremely competitive, is the Championship.
What do you think about that, Sean?
Yeah, I think Kyle raises some interesting points there. He talked about the players that we have, and the likes of James Vaughan, Naki Wells. Terrific, great combination. I think that's a mouth-watering prospect for us. Majewski, on the pre-season that we've had, he looks fantastic. He looks like a great number 10 and can unlock defences, and that's something we've been lacking. For a number of years, so that's good. So I think us as a team, it's about chemistry, it's about spirit that can make us compete. As for the teams who we're up against, yeah, you know what, our salary is minuscule compared to some of theirs, because they do have those parachute payments that we talked about from the Premier League. It's going to be an interesting one. This division, we've always said the bottom team can beat the top team. It's very, very close. In the Premier League, you can almost predict who the top 5, 6 are going to be. In the Championship, it's harder to predict. I think the teams that are going to be there or thereabouts, I think you're absolutely right. Fulham, signing Ross McCormack for 11 million, is a proven goal scorer. So I think Ross will do well there. I think Norwich City, whenever I've seen Norwich City play, it's a tough place to go, and I think they'll be strong. They've got Anthony Pilkington, one of our former players at Championship level. He's far better than that, in my opinion. I think the surprise package for me were Blackburn Rovers. I think Jordan Rhodes and Gested are a good front line, so I think they'll be a strong force. So it's going to be interesting.
As always.
As always, we can be dark horses. We can be dark horses, and let's see what happens.
Do you see an improvement in the economy, and will that improvement help the fortunes of Huddersfield Town?
It's a great question. In terms of the business backing, since what we call the new era of the club, the sort of 6-7 years that Dean has come in and changed our USP, if you like. The business community have over the years backed us and continue to do so, and that's great, and that's growing, and that's very important to the club, because they contribute collectively. Our partners will contribute something like near £1 million that go into the football club, which is very important. That excludes boxes and things like that, and they're very important to as well. So that's crucial. And of course, whenever we undertake activity building down at PPG Canal Side, we would support those partners. So it's our way of giving something back and trying to encourage the local economy to boost. Yeah. The indications that I'm sort of seeing at the moment and talking to these people are very encouraging. There seems to be some green shoots that are developing. One of our club partners supplies food to the restaurant trade, not just in Kirklees but around the UK. And I saw them at the weekend, and they said to me that they're seeing encouraging signs of people actually going to restaurants more, which is only a positive sign. Yeah. We as a business are growing. Past 7 years we've grown 10% each year. Wow. And we continue to do that. So in answer to your question, I think there are some encouraging signs there. It's fragile, and I think we've all got to be sensible, we've all got to be careful, and we've all got to move in the right direction.
Well, of course, the payback is the results on the pitch.
Yeah, for us, that's our business.
That's a bit of pressure for you today, Sean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That, at the end of the day, that is our business, and our product is about what happens on a Saturday afternoon, and we've got to get that right.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a break there. Thank you, Sean, for your open answers and for making this a really fascinating conversation. You can add to this debate by contacting us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, or indeed catch us on Twitter at Weekly Windup. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. This week my special guest is the Commercial Director for Huddersfield Town Football Club, Sean Jarvis. Sean, thank you very much for your interesting answers to the first half of this programme. But I'd like to ask some questions about you, because you always seem to be a bit enigmatic. You're always there, but nobody knows anything about you. So, where were you born, and where did your love of football come from?
Yeah, do you know, I was born in Leicester, born in the Midlands, and grew up there.
A Walker's Crisps boy?
Yeah, till I was 18. So I learnt my football and rugby union down in Leicester. But I grew up watching one of Huddersfield's favourite sons, Frank Worthington. So yeah, I grew up there. But do you know, I've lived for 30 years in Huddersfield now. Married a Yorkshire lass, and got a little boy, 8-year-old, who's a massive Huddersfield Town fan. His favourite player is James Vaughan. And for me, you know, as I say, I grew up supporting Leicester City, but when Huddersfield played Leicester the first time we played each other, I of course went as a director of Huddersfield Town, and I'm sat there at the King Power Stadium, it's now called, and my brother, who's a Leicester man, was sat next to me, and Town went 1-0 up, and I never thought I'd do this, but I jumped up and I was cheering, I was like, yeah, come on, you know, and my brother looked at me and said, what on earth are you doing? So Town is in my blood. Town is in my blood, and do you know what? I'm incredibly passionate about Huddersfield Town, and if I could, I'd make Huddersfield Town win the Premier League, win the Champions League. I'd have all the Town players in the England team. You know, so and for me, I'm very, very passionate about Huddersfield and Huddersfield Town.
Are you an ex-player?
I did. I never played professionally, but I did get trials. I played at a reasonable level in Leicester. I was never good enough. I was the old-fashioned centre half, all elbows, and those people that played against me will know that. I did play for Huddersfield Amateurs in Elland, who play the famous blue and white stripes. So that was a year, and I was first team captain there. And a lot of my friends who know me will laugh at this. There's only ever been one captain at the Huddersfield Amateurs who have got back-to-back promotions, and that's yours truly. So I'm very, very proud of that. But,
good man.
I have a real affinity to football.
Well,
and
what actually brought you to Huddersfield?
Well, I studied in Leeds. And then met my wife, and we've just stayed here ever since. And prior to working at Huddersfield Town, I was at Oldham Athletic. So I spent 8 years at Oldham Athletic. With 1 or 2 interesting years there.
Trotting over the Pennines every day? Yeah,
going into enemy territory, into Lancashire.
The dark side.
The dark side. But yeah, great people over there, and it's worth Googling my history on what's happened at Oldham. So.
Okay. Of course, Martin Lillis disappeared from Town to go to the dark side when he went to Manchester City.
Yeah, that's right.
And then came back.
Yeah.
Saw the light, came back.
I'm incredibly impressed by what Mark's done at the academy. Is our
he's a great guy.
Yeah, head of academy. He's fantastic.
Guy.
You know, he's incredibly passionate. He's not a Huddersfield lad, but he's incredibly passionate about Huddersfield Town.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want people who play for the club, really.
What does a commercial director do?
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of that off the field operation. For us, there's things like box holders, the club partners, the sponsorship, the kits, the matchday programmes, the communication. There's a board of directors that we have at Town, and we work very closely together. And I've got to pay tribute to obviously Dean Hoyle, of course, but also Nigel Clibbins, our chief exec, Ross Wilson, head of football operations, Anne Huff, who is our head of operations down at the stadium as well, and then of course myself, and we work very close as a tight-knit team, and we meet weekly, and we go through all the issues that are related to Huddersfield Town and work through them. So we share ideas, so there's always somebody we can talk to. So as a role, we kind of do pretty much everything, but primarily it's about the commercial generating revenue for the football club, because our model is very tight. We don't have the parachute payments, we've got to generate income.
Kyle over there is one of our presenters, and I'm sure he's bursting to ask you some questions as well, but sure. Don't you pinch this show for me.
I won't do. I mean, just, one of the things that I think a lot of Huddersfield Town fans is always in the back of the mind is to do with the stadium, our ownership, our lack of ownership of the stadium. Is this something that not necessarily you're looking to change in the future, but is it something that affects your business model?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a well documented fact is the ownership of the stadium and the chapters it's kind of gone through. I mean, the current situation is that it is effectively a joint venture between the council, Huddersfield Giants, I think under the guise of Huddersfield Sporting Pride, and Huddersfield Town. Our sort of say in the stadium is 40%. And we have a role in that, and I think it's a very interesting model because the parties have got to work together to try and make that a commercially viable venture. And we've got to do our part, and success on the field, and we'll probably get close to 250,000 visitors from around the UK, from Brighton, from Millwall, from Leeds, wherever, coming to the stadium. And of course that's money coming into to Huddersfield. So we've got our role to play. And I think it's very important that the three parties within that role work closely together and support each other in what we can do. And that includes things like local provenance, supporting brands and products that are in our neighbourhood and getting them into the stadium. I think it's important that we share good practices. I think it's important that we challenge each other. And whilst, make no bones about it, I would love Huddersfield Town to own the stadium. I'd love it to be our own home. But for where we are, that's the model that Huddersfield have got, and so be it. So we've got to work with that model. Having that 40% is very, very important for Huddersfield Town in the future. And I think that's something you've got to pay tribute to Dean Hoyle and the board of directors at Town for actually working to get to that. So hopefully our future is going to be a lot brighter.
FIFA claims to be a non-profit organisation. It's got $1 billion in the bank. How can that be?
As an organiser, I don't know the ins and outs of FIFA, but they're clearly making a lot of money from the activities that they do. So for me, that kind of money should be reinvested back into football, into the game.
Well, indeed, into Huddersfield Town.
So grassroots, that's where FIFA can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
And
don't.
Yeah, and they should be encouraged to do so.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the late 70s, really, FIFA's been an organisation about proliferating profit out of football rather than making football a better game.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find extremely unfortunate, having read histories of FIFA.
Despite all these brickbats, we were all waiting with such anticipation for it, and it was such a fantastic affair.
Absolutely.
It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And that's all we've got time for. Sean, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a real pleasure to see you again. And I'm sure that our viewers have found this to be a fascinating conversation. We want your feedback. You can contact us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com and search for us on Twitter @weeklywindup. All the very best to Huddersfield Town for the coming season. We'll be watching from Saturday onwards with great interest.
Thank you.
See you next week.